The next order of business is the consideration of Senate Executive Message number 3-T. Is there discussion? No discussion? I'll recognize the senator from Ohio for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move the committee recommend to the full Senate and that the Senate advise and consent to all nominations contained in the Senate Executive Message 3-T, except for numbers 1, 8, 13, 30, 34, 40, 46, 59, 74, and 75. Sure. That would be except for numbers 1, 8, 13, 30, 34, 40, 46, 59, 74, and 75.
Is there discussion on the motion?
Yes, ma'am. As I
Senator from Marion.
thank you. Would the chair of the committee yield?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Will you yield?
Yes.
Yeah. As I look down this list, are there reasons that these numbers, these candidates, were excluded?
Yes, please. Senator from Ohio.
Senator, if I may, since I made the motion, would you be all right if I responded to that?
Certainly.
Okay. The numbers 1, 8, 13, 30, 34, 40, 46, and 59 were all appointees who did not fill out the required paperwork to be appointed.
What about numbers 16 and 19? Well, they didn't fill out the paperwork either. Why weren't they included?
They actually did. Since we sent out the final request for paperwork, they filled out theirs. And then candidates 74 and 75, my reason for not advising on those was that I didn't feel that they met the qualifications outlined in statute for that position they were being appointed to.
So is this the appropriate time to ask you questions about those two candidates, or are you just now moving them out for separate votes?
We're moving them all out, but we want moving them all out.
So once they're voted on, the question and answer period is excluded? So these are the appropriate times?
Yes.
So did candidates 74 and 75 complete the financial statements or the required application forms?
Yes, they did.
And so there are definite reasons why these two were picked out?
Yes.
Because they were women?
No, I just said that it was because that we didn't feel like they met the qualifications that were outlined in the code related to the position that they were being appointed to.
So when the governor appoints members to be on particular boards, it's difficult to find individuals to serve on a lot of boards. So these two candidates were brought in before the committee and questioned. At any time, did you feel that their questions were not relevant?
That the questions asked of them were not relevant?
Yeah. I mean, the answers were not relevant, that their answers were not
they relevant to
have any substance that gave you reason that they weren't qualified?
I believe the questions that were asked were specific to their qualifications that are outlined in the code for that position. And it's my feeling that their response indicated that they didn't meet those qualifications.
Did you let them know at that particular time that that you were not satisfied with their response?
I think in both cases, I read the section of code that outlines the qualifications required, and I think it was made obvious to them my concerns about the lack of qualifications in their answers for that position.
So was there a job description that you based your opinion on that they weren't qualified?
Well, it was professional history as well as the questionnaire that they filled out. One of the questions in the questionnaire asked what experience they had related to adjudicating claims. One of the candidates actually put none as an answer. So,
What qualifications would you think that a person appointed to this board should have?
Well, it's not my personal preference on the qualifications. It's what's outlined in code 21A-4-3. Which says the members of the board shall be selected with special reference to their ability and fitness to adjudicate claims. Selections shall be upon a nonpartisan merit basis. The governor shall not appoint a person who is identified with the interest of either employers or employees.
Do you think the governor was erroneous in making these two appointments?
I think that the appointments, the qualifications as they outlined in their questionnaire and their testimony to this committee do not match up with what is outlined.
Well, that's not the question
code.
I asked you. Do you think the governor made an error in appointing these two people?
I didn't have a private conversation with the governor about how he came to that decision, so I don't want to make assumptions on how he did that.
So what interest would you think that these two people had with either employees or employers that make them not acceptable for this position?
I think in both cases it has more to do with the lack of experience related to adjudicating claims.
Do you have any direct evidence that either of these candidates were negligent, or not negligent, I shouldn't use, were not apt to perform their duties on these particular boards? Any specific reasons or knowledge of their past histories that would lead you to make this decision?
Not other than what I've already stated in their lack of experience related to adjudicating claims.
How many people were on the governor's list appointed to this board?
3.
And we brought only 2 women in, didn't bring the third individual in?
The third indicated in his questionnaire that it was made obvious in the questionnaire that he had experience related to, specifically to adjudicating claims.
I'd like to make comments, if permissible. You know, it's pretty obvious to me, and it's obvious to anybody in this room, that this would be politically motivated. The president, in his speech, when he accepted the office of being president, extended a hand to both parties to participate across party lines. And, you know, it was in good faith. We accepted that. We tried to work together. We accept our position as the minority, and as the governor, I would think that there certainly has a prerogative to make appointments as he sees fit. I have personal knowledge of Miss Chandler. I had the opportunity to hire her. She worked for me for several years. She worked with people that came from all positions in life. A lot of times their position wasn't the best. She was very dedicated, very sincere. She had certainly the qualifications and the knowledge and the education to deal with adverse situations. And we're looking at people here for this unemployment compensation board that submit some application or some form to be considered for unemployment benefits on the county level, and for one reason or another they're rejected. They come before the Unemployment Compensation Board and state their case. You know, I would think that you don't have to be a CPA, you don't have to be a counselor, you don't have to be someone that owned a business, a former employer. You just have to have common sense. And to me, people in this position that are appointed should have the ability to look at people's wants and needs and their position and make positions accordingly. I just think that the way this is handled, today being Women's Day, the only two women we take off of here, the only two people we take off here are women. And, you know, we try as hard as we can to have equal participation between males and females and things of that sort. And the governor and his ability to appoint these people, you know, certainly makes a decision on their qualifications. And it just seems to me that this has an overtone of politics. It was very clear during this last election that the people of this state made choices not based on political affiliations. They made the choice on people that would come down here and honestly and truthfully and diligently work together to make this a better state. And we're 30 days into this session, and all of a sudden, because we have two females that were appointed by a governor in good faith, are being rejected by a committee because of political overtones. It's obvious, and we all know who these people are. Ms. Chandler is the daughter of a former political chair of the Democratic Party. The candidate at 75, Ms. Biafour, is the recent political chair of the party. And the minority party seems to just want to disqualify them on the fact that they're affiliated with a particular party. I take great exception to this. I hope that the people are listening and watching very closely when the state is $500 million in the hole, and we're looking for ways to balance this budget. We've got to work together to put our best minds and our best foot forward to address this particular problem. And here along the way, we're doing something like this is just unconscionable to me. I would hope that this committee would reconsider and get over this pettiness. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator. Which one? The senator from the 15th?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually anticipated a little bit of a response like that, and you know, at first glance it could actually be conceived as this, what the senator from Marion was saying, but it's further from the truth. The fact of the matter, both appointments for this Unemployment Compensation Board, it specifically states in code that the board shall, and it's not may, it shall be selected with special reference to their ability to fitness and adjudicate claims. Now, when it comes to Ms. Chandler, and again, I don't care whether they're male, female, or anything else. I don't even give much concern to party affiliation. I say much, any concern to party affiliation. But I'll read from the member's information sheet. What experience do you have when adjudicating claims before any state or federal boards of agencies? The response and her handwriting is none. That is a direct conflict with the code. And where it says the board shall be selected with special reference to their ability and fitness to adjudicate claims. Look, this committee takes a confirmation, takes their role seriously on what we're doing here, and we eliminated many other people, both Democrat and Republican and Independent, as far as I know, that just didn't fill their paperwork out. And that's important. Yeah, maybe this process is being done a little bit different from in the past, where the committee has actually taken it up a step and making sure that we fulfill our statutory duty to make sure that the applicants are put forward. Now, the question was raised on whether the governor, I don't know whether the governor vetted these people or not. Apparently, frankly, I didn't know either one of them were chairman of the Democrat Party. I personally did not know that. I didn't ask that question. It's irrelevant to me. What is relevant to me is whether they meet the qualifications of statute that this committee must follow, not shall follow. That's what leads us here today with this, and we have no other choice, even though we may feel differently, but it isn't about feelings here. This is about making sure that we follow statutorily what is being said, and I believe that this motion is in order, and it's the right thing to do. And I'll just leave it go at that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions? The senator from Greenbrier.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And I don't know if the Vice Chair wants to yield or you want to yield to my question, Vice Chair. You keep using the term we. Who is we? We did not feel, we did not. I wasn't we. Nobody talked to me about this. Who is we?
If I used the word we, I misspoke. I know at least part of the time I said I. I'm only speaking for myself in the occasions because I'm making the motion here.
Okay. So when you referred to we, you weren't talking about the fact that you all already met and talked about this?
I'm speaking from my own personal position as the proffer of the motion.
Okay. Let me ask a question about adjudicating claims. That seems to be the big draw for one of them here, Ms. Chandler. The code says the members of the board shall be selected with special reference to their ability and fitness to adjudicate claims. Tell me what adjudicate claims means.
To handle the proceedings of claims made I think in the questionnaire it said federal or county.
The questionnaire wasn't statute.
Right.
The questionnaire wasn't statute. The statute says have ability and fitness to adjudicate claims. What does that mean?
Process claims.
Okay. It doesn't say with courts. It doesn't say with federal or state. It says to adjudicate claims, process claims of some sort. Now, Ms. Chandler, you know beyond a shadow of doubt she can't adjudicate claims based on her work. She said she answered the question correctly. She said, "Can you do it on state and federal?" She had not, but she adjudicates claims at her job all the time. She's a school administrator. She works in the school.
Well, the questionnaire was one part of it. We also had her testimony here in committee where we asked basically the same question and not specific to what was in the questionnaire, but I read this section of code to her and asked her what experience she had that would meet the qualifications in that section of code.
And I was here. I think her response was that I can do that job because I do that. It wasn't the questionnaire. She wasn't responding to the questionnaire. She responded to code.
My question, I guess, was to experience related to that, not whether or not she felt she could do it.
So you feel, again, I asked the question the Senator from Marion asked, we feel that the governor's, Governor Tomblin, the outgoing governor, violated the provision of this code then when he nominated her. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying
he obviously felt she could do the job. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's all right. I'm only saying, as I said before, that we have a duty to review the code and make sure that the candidates, the appointees, are qualified as outlined in the code. And I didn't personally feel that she was.
So this is based on how we personally are feeling about things. It doesn't matter if they fit the qualifications. I'm going to go back to the gentleman we did not bring in, and I appreciate the senator from Berkeley saying that it didn't base on male or female. It does trouble me a bit that on Women's Day that it's the females that were kicking off the board. But Mr. Canfield, then you felt he didn't need to come in because he was an attorney? Is that...
I don't have his questionnaire in front of me. I don't know if we have one readily available, but
I think you said that, though, to the Senator from Maryland.
I think that any member of the committee, as they have with other interviewees, can request for anybody to come in. So it wouldn't be just me in that case. No one asked for him to be called in, including yourself.
No, I did not. I didn't ask for either any of these three. So Mr. Canfield wasn't brought in, and you said that you'd mentioned that. I believe I heard you say to the Senator Marion, because he was an attorney, he knew how to adjudicate claims. Based on what you believe about that, then you're saying that all statutes, or this position requires all persons to be attorneys, basically, who can do this.
In fact, I didn't say anything about attorneys, so let me just clarify that. I never even used the word attorney.
I thought I heard you
in my
say
answer.
that.
But here I'm looking at pertinent experiences. He was chairman of the West Virginia Unemployment Board of Review. He was commissioner of the West Virginia Department of Employment Security and president-elect of Interstate Conference of Employment Security Administrators.
Okay. Well, let's go down then to Ms. Biaford, since you've talked about experience. Ms. Biaford has been appointed and working the job since the first of the year. Handled 60 cases, I think she told us when she was here, 60 cases. She explained the job. She explained what they did. What made her incapable of adjudicating claims? She's already doing that.
In my opinion, her qualifications and professional experience prior to being appointed did not meet the qualifications set out in code.
So basically, we're removing people that the governor and Madam Chairman, in a moment, I would like to call someone from the governor's office, not about these particularly, but I'd like to talk about the process. We're saying that the governor sends us names and he doesn't determine they're capable of doing the job, they're not qualified, because in our opinion they're not qualified, even though the governor's one that makes the appointment. We're just confirming what the governor does. I have some issues with that, because when we begin to determine, I'm sorry, that's not a question. I'm sorry to put it that way. Madam Chair, I would like to call someone from the governor's office at some point.
Certainly. Is there anyone here from the governor's office? Please state your name.
Derek Scarborough.
Senator
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Greenbrier.
Derek, thank you for coming, and I know that you didn't submit these names. This came under Governor Tomlin's
That's correct.
administration. When you all submit names, you just pick them out of a hat and say these persons will be a person to put in that position. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Some
Derek,
committees do, some committees don't. I don't know which one we're doing.
Derek, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead, Senator.
Derek, and again, I go back to what you said before you were under oath, and you can say it again. You're not responsible for the names, of course, that we're looking at today. These were taken in Governor Tomlin's administration.
That's correct.
Appointed before you came. In fact, some of them were appointed, I think both of them in January. When you go to make appointments, because that's the process you're doing presently, correct?
That's right. Absolutely.
You're giving a list. When you go to do them, I take that that you simply pull the names out of a hat and say this person worked for us, this person did. Is that how it's done?
Not if we want to get them confirmed, no.
What do you go through in looking at a process?
We try to explore options. We look at the code. All these different boards have various qualifications. Some have congressional districts, some have political party registration, job backgrounds, whatnot, and we try to brainstorm about who might be good choices. We give the governor a few options, and then we get his feedback, and then we go out and talk to those prospective members and see if they have an interest in serving. And you know, that's half the trouble, is finding good people who want to serve on many of these boards.
And I dare say, while you may not have had time, and I haven't asked you this before, so I don't know, but I dare say you knew pretty much who Governor Tomblin appointed before the list came up to us. You had looked at that list, certainly.
Right.
And if you had questions, serious questions on some of those on the list, you would have pulled them if you didn't feel they met the qualifications.
We would have explored that, right.
And our job is to basically confirm, support, make sure there's nothing terribly wrong with the person who's been appointed. That's our job in the Senate.
Absolutely.
To confirm.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Derek.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Terry. A senator from Wayne.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With leave of the committee, I'd like to have the parliamentarian come to the podium, please. And Madam Chair, I don't know that we need to swear in the parliamentarian, but maybe we do. I don't know how this process goes. If he's an employee of our, pardon? I'd like for you to swear in the parliamentarian, please.
I do.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In terms of as we go through this process now, we are removing people from the list. According to the code and according to law that we have here, are we then the people that we're removing because they didn't fill out a questionnaire? Let's take the other two aside. Therefore, they will no longer be able to serve in that capacity, since there's an action of confirmations removing them from the list. Is that true?
If, based on not filling out their financial disclosure that's required by statute with Ethics Commission, if you do not confirm them while you're in session, yes, they would no longer be permitted to act in that capacity.
However, if we do get their questionnaires in before the end of the session, we can still act upon these.
Oh, correct. And the way it would work, even if you would vote and exclude them, yes. Whether it was the questionnaire or whatever, we could request, we're permitted to request someone be sent back to us by the governor, and then we could vote on them again. Yes.
Okay, so
or you could vote on them again.
Let's ask about the two that are, and I'm not quite sure on the Unemployment Compensation Board of Review. There are only 3 members. Is that correct, or are there?
I believe that's correct.
So now, if we take this action, we have 1 member that's on that. How do they handle their business? How would he handle the business coming before them?
I wouldn't be able to answer that question.
I would think it'd be pretty difficult if he disagreed with himself. It'd be tough to try to do anything.
I'm not sure if the Unemployment Compensation Board meets quarterly, or there would be time enough for the governor to make that appointment.
Do you think that there would be problems with the actions that have been taken while Ms. Beafor has been on the board, where they've filed the claims and she's acted on this, and now the some members of the legislature find that she's not qualified? You think that could be a problem, and they may have to review all 60 of those?
I don't believe that. But I have no legal opinion on that.
Okay. I think that's a very valid concern that I would have. That obviously showed that she had she has knowledge and she has experience in handling that.
It's not an infrequent occurrence for even one governor to appoint someone, another governor to pull them out.
I agree, but this is when you're talking about somebody's unemployment compensation review, and you're making a determination. This is a little bit more than being a board of governors or something, like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could the governor's representative, Derek, if you could come back to the podium, please? I would appreciate it. And the governor, or correction, the senator from Greenbrier, too many G's there all of a sudden, got me all tongue tangled, made reference about, if you all were going through and looking at, particular recommendations were made by the governor, the previous governor, and you had the opportunity to pull those back. To date, can you tell us how many have been pulled back by the governor from this particular list directly?
There's been 4 pulled back. 2 of them resigned, and the current executive pulled 2 others.
Okay. And for the 2 that were pulled back, do you have any particular reason why those 2 were pulled back?
I believe the governor preferred to have a different person in those positions.
So it was a matter of preference, not a matter of fitness for the responsibilities. Is that correct?
I don't believe that there was a determination about their qualifications.
Okay. Thank you.
Senator from the 15th.
May I speak to the motion? Oh, forgive me.
I have a couple questions.
Question?
Yeah.
Okay, the senator from Marion.
Derek, please. Are you familiar with the other appointees that have been taken off the list besides the 2 women? Do you have a list of those?
I do have a list in front of me. Permit me.
And I haven't time to in-depth review these, but are any of these reappointments?
I believe some of them probably are. I don't know
Madam Chair, are any
specifically
reappointments?
off the top of my head which ones were reappointments
So,
by Governor Tomblin or not.
I can answer that.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't care who answers. I just have questions about if they're reappointed and have served in the capacity on a particular board for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, some of these, and I'd have to go through to say exactly which ones were reappointments. Some of them were reappointments. I can tell you one personal example, a gentleman that we called to alert him that he hadn't filled out his paperwork, and it was actually his response to us was that, he did not desire to be reappointed, and so then it must have been some sort of error that he was on the list to be reappointed, that he was in a new job and could no longer fulfill the duties of the board that he was serving on.
So he contacted who? You?
I think one of our staff had reached out to the governor's office, and I don't know who specifically he spoke to, but word came back to us that he did not desire to be.
He's on this list?
He's on the list that we're of people that we're removing. Yeah.
Yeah, were all these people contacted
Yes.
and asked?
Yeah, and to the ones, that I don't have an answer, that gentleman actually responded and said that he didn't want to be reappointed. Some of these folks, we weren't able to get a response from. So I can't say whether or not they wanted to be, or if they had a similar reason for not filling out their paperwork as the one gentleman did.
Okay, my next question is probably to the chair, and it's a point of inquiry. Are we going to vote on each one of these separately?
No, the motion is to vote on them all. That's listed
So
there.
how could I pull the 2 women off and vote on them separately? Do I have to have a motion to do that?
Could amend.
Well, there's a motion on the floor.
Could amend.
There's a motion on the floor, and you would have to amend that motion if you want to put him back in.
So, okay. Before we
Okay.
remove them from being
Is
considered.
there more discussion on the motion?
Here.
Pardon me?
What is the motion exactly?
Would you repeat it?
My motion was that for the committee to recommend to the full Senate that the Senate advise and consent to all nominations contained in Senate Executive Message 3T except for numbers.
All the numbers, all they included.
Yeah, I can reread
And the
those.
Senator from Marion's motion, and the point of inquiry, the Senator from Marion's, or point of order, or whatever it is, his motion, he wants to know how you remove those, keep those two from being in that vote.
I believe you can offer an
Okay.
amendment.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry.
Another point of inquiry, if I may, Madam Chair. Once we, say for instance, if the committee agrees to eliminate all these folks that is in the gentleman's motion, is that finite? Does it go to the floor for approval of every member?
It goes to the floor, and I'll ask the parliamentarian to explain that, but I believe you can make a motion from the floor.
Do you need a whole vote of the body to either confirm or not confirm? Right. So you're going to see these names again on the floor, right, even if we take them off.
Right, because the Senate, the executive message is what is the special order of business, and our recommendation is one part of it. And we don't act on the recommendations until we don't really act on the recommendation, we act on the chairman's motion.
Right, the whole body has to act on it. Right.
Can we vote? Is there a way we can take these two names off on the vote now?
Well, I'm going to vote. I think we're pretty well understand what the procedure is.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Do you need the motion restated? Does everyone understand the
I like
motion on the floor?
The motion at the appropriate time.
Okay. I think that's appropriate now.
Okay, Madam Chair, I move that we put the two, let me be more specific. Candidates 74 and 75 be put back onto the list and not removed, however you want to state the motion.
You've heard the amendment by the senator from Marion
And
to
I request a roll call.
add back, I take 74 and 75 in the motion. Take those off. You understand? Is that the correct motion?
I want to put them back on the list to be confirmed.
Okay, so we're voting on all of them except 74 and 75.
And I request a roll call. We're voting to put them back on the list.
Okay, if you want them back on, that's a yes on the
If you want
amendment.
them back on, I hope you would vote yes.
All right, you've heard the amendment, the motion by
We're
the
going to
senator from Greenberg.
And you may want to speak to it first. I speak to the senator's motion. I think that he's trying to clean up a mess. I give the Confirmations Committee credit for working hard on all of these names, and I think we have taken names off that need to be taken off. But I also think we're playing a bit of a game here when we don't need to be playing games by removing these two names. These are two women that I think they fit the code section, and I think the senator's amendment is a very good amendment. It saves us a lot of headaches and a lot of frustration when we do our jobs without trying to destroy people, and I think this would not be destroying people that are capable of doing the job if we put them back. So I support the senator's amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. although I understand where the senator comes from with his amendment, I rise in opposition to it because, to me, it's very, very clear. And this is not partisan politics, in my opinion. If anything, it's quite the contrary. I'm not going to go on to in a long elaboration on this, but this committee, we've got a duty to do what the code tells us to do. And I did not even realize this until just a few seconds ago, that both of these applicants are from Fairmont. We've got a whole state of West Virginia, and 2 out of the 3 people that would be dealing with this would be from one area of the state. That in itself, barring anything else that we've dealt with on that in itself tells me that there's something wrong with that. And so I'm just going to use that small portion of it, and that's just my perspective, okay? My perspective on it. It doesn't have anything to do with the legality, or whether we're following code or anything like that. But as a guy that pays unemployment for my employees, I'm offended by this. I actually do think it's political, but it's not from the standpoint of what we're trying to do here. I didn't even know that these people were affiliated with the Democrat Party until today, because it doesn't make any difference to me. But I was made aware of it in this committee. So if there's any politics being played here, I know it's not going to be with my vote. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Pardon me? Okay, the senator from Marion wishes to close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've been in this business for a long time, and everybody down here does, I think, an admirable job, and it never gets portrayed in the media or in the press back home, exactly what happens. And it's very difficult for people that report the news to tell it exactly as it is without some kind of slant. But saying that, that's the political perception that we live in. I know that when I go back home, people ask me questions about what they've read in the paper, and that's the political reality of what we deal with. And as we look down this list of what just transpired in this committee, the general public, I'm sure, will read, will see on TV, or hear about it somehow, that this committee, by its own admission, removed 2 females of a particular political party. It just reeks of political mischievous. It's the reality that we live in. I'm certain, and I don't question anybody's integrity or anybody's motive. I certainly, respect the opinion of everybody in this Senate, but the way this is perceived is just not right. It's going to be portrayed by the media. It's a good thing we don't have the third house that we used to have every year, because they would make a political heyday of this procedure that we're doing. And I do take a little bit of exception when you say that folks from Fairmont are not, I know you didn't say they're not capable, but they come from one locale. We're the friendly city. I live in the I-79 corridor with WVU and Fairmont State, 2 fine universities, Pierpont Community College. We produce a lot of folks that have degrees and things of that sort. And the people that are on this committee are very capable. Ms. Piafor has served, and I believe she said, that they meet maybe every other week. I mean, these are 60 cases of what control people's livelihoods. When you're down and out and need some kind of compensation, that board ought to be readily available. There are 3 people on this board, from what I understand. We're going to take 2 off. I don't know how it's going to function, but, you know, I would hope that we would reconsider this, put these two individuals back on, eliminate all the political perception out there that, you know, that we are knuckleheads, that we shouldn't do things like this. And, Madam Chair, I hope you support my amendment.
Okay. Any other discussion? He closed. Okay. A roll call has been demanded on the amendment by the senator from Marion. Clerk will take a roll call vote.
Senator Azinger. No. Senator Blair. No. Senator Boso.
No.
Senator Gaunch. No. Senator Miller. Yes. Senator Plymel. Senator Plymel. Senator Prezioso.
Yes.
Vice Chair Ferns.
No.
Madam Chair Boley.
No. Clerk?
2 ayes, 6 nays, 1 absent, not voting.
The amendment fails. 2 ayes, 6 nays, and 1 absent. We'll vote on the motion now, made by the senator from Ohio. Do you want that repeated, or are you okay with it? The motion is to remove all of these, that the numbers were given. The question is on the adoption of the motion of the senator from Ohio that the committee recommend to the full Senate that the Senate advise and consent to all nominations contained in Senate Executive Message 3T except for the numbers 1, 8, 13, 30, 34, 40, 46, 59, 74, and 75. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. No. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted. Is there any further business to come before the committee? If not, the senator from Ohio.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move we adjourn.
The senator from Ohio moves to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the meeting adjourned.